You?
Cool, yeah. All right, y'all. I appreciate you coming out to the stream tonight. I appreciate the support. Thank you to all two of y'all.
What?
Yeah. All two of y'all.
Them Pepe hands, though, not a good look. Welcome to the Geeklife Live Discord server, the Nerd Herd. We're a community of content creators and streamers, and here we're all about providing great content for viewers and to provide support for growing content creators and streamers to showcase their work and grow their platforms. So, want to surround yourself with like minds? Consider joining the Geeklife Live Discord server. Welcome to the Nerd Herd.
And welcome back to Geeklife. I guess we lost Kevin for a second there, but that's okay. We'll get him back here in a second. This week we got the once-in-a-lifetime chance to interview one of the biggest nerds in the industry, Jim Viscardi of comicbook.com. It was an incredibly insightful conversation, about an hour long, that we were only able to record a solid 10 to 15 minutes of due to technical errors. Yeah. Now, while this was definitely disappointing, we are looking on the bright side here. I mean, we still got the chance to interview Jim Viscardi, and there were a few clips we were able to salvage. We wanted to share every minute of the interview with y'all, but of course, since we can't, we're working with what we got. The interview started off strong. Luckily, we were able to salvage that. Go ahead and play that clip. Greetings, nerds and poker fans, and welcome back to Geek Life, your source for all the nerdy news you need to know. Tonight, we have a very special treat. That is right, a wild Jim Viscardi has appeared for our very first ever Fireside chat. It is an absolute honor to have you, Jim. How are you doing
thanks
today?
Thanks for having me. Doing all right. It's a bit of a gloomy day in Tennessee, but look, I'm here to just talk nerdy.
Yes, and we're super excited to have you. For those of you who don't know who Jim Viscardi is, he's the executive director / executive editor. I don't know, your Twitter page is a little unclear about this, just as running things for comicbook.com, but
basically it.
Most importantly, he's the host of a wild podcast has appeared and co-host of a Comic Book Nation's podcast, as well as just working for comicbook.com in general. If you haven't heard about comicbook.com, Kev.
Yeah, comicbook.com is an entertainment media company passionate about larger-than-life characters, celebrities, and entertainment franchises, from movies, TV news, to comics, anime, gaming, and franchises like The Walking Dead, Star Wars, Star Trek, Netflix, and WWE. Comicbook.com speaks to a genre of fans that eat, sleep, and play amidst today's pop geek culture. With more than 50 million monthly unique visitors and 14 million social media followers, whoa, huge numbers, Comic Book is the fastest growing pop culture entertainment brand in the U.S., maintaining double-digit audience and revenue.
Yeah,
man, I gotta change that traffic number. We're almost double that now. Boom.
Ooh,
sorry,
wow.
I didn't mean to show off like that. Well, no, it's funny because it's one of those things. When we started Comic Book, we got some traffic basically like from pure dumb luck, basically, right? We had a great URL, comicbook.com. How do you go wrong with that? But we had a super passionate crew that was working for us in the day. And like my goal starting Comic Book was I wanted to be a site that was in league with Entertainment Weekly, Hollywood Reporter, Variety, all like the big movie trade sites.
Yeah.
And we hit that goal. We hit the goal kind of like once last year, and then this year we have basically been in league with them. And so just for perspective's sake, those are sites that are doing 25 to 30 million US visitors a month. And we're right up in there, kind of with them. And so you've got a few other sites. Your Screen Rants are at 15 to 20, and then a few other sites, obviously kind of fall down. Like IGN is generally around the 20 mark, 16 or whatever. So, but those things, I wanted to basically take our little nothing site and be one of the big dogs. And 5 years later.
All right, here you go.
Oh, wow, guys. And while y'all were ragging on him for flexing, comicbook.com's exponential growth over these past years is definitely worth bragging about, in my opinion.
Yeah, after some introductions and stage setting, we talked to Jim about how he got to where he is today, his story, if you will.
Yeah, he starts off by explaining how he was a nerd from the get-go. His influences are very familiar to me, as I share many of them. I think we also have a clip of that.
Look, I grew up a nerd in the sense that my first brush with comics and superheroes and all that came from all those 90s cartoons, right? So Spider-Man, Batman, even the bad ones, right? The Iron Man one, the Hulk one, Fantastic Four.
All right, here you go. Kev.
He goes on to mention Captain America, particularly the death of Captain America and the Civil War storyline is the one major event that really brought him into comics.
But the story of Jim's career path doesn't start with comics, but rather a stuffed teddy bear.
That's right. Jim Viscardi first started off working for a small Build-A-Bear shop in his local mall. When his friends were working at Abercrombie and Hollister, Jim was stuffing teddy bears with his shirt still on. While that didn't seem like a career path to much, that all changed when he went to college at the Big Apple. And he requested a transfer of stores and ended up on Fifth Avenue. We have a clip of that as well.
On Fifth Avenue, right down the street from Louis Vuitton and Saks Fifth Avenue and whatever. It was crazy, crazy time. Yeah. And so, I was there basically my entire college career, and I got to do some pretty crazy stuff when I was there. So if you haven't been to a Build-A-Bear, don't know much about Build-A-Bear, obviously it's find a stuffed animals are unstuffed. You stuff them up, stick a heart inside, fun dance, dress them up, the works. They also do birthday parties, lots of them. And so on Fifth Avenue, they had a whole, the party business was a huge, huge part of what they do. And I found myself kind of taking that over. And so, but like I said, being on Fifth Avenue, you get a wide gamut of people, including Hugh Jackman, James Gandolfini, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
You would think the craziness would stop there, right? Kind of like a dream gig to land as a college kid. You would think he obviously peaked, right? Well, you'd be wrong.
The opportunity for an internship at Marvel opened up, and Jim jumped at the opportunity. Here he is talking about it.
I need an internship. Do you mind putting me in touch with Jim McCann, who was the PR person at the time? And I didn't hear back. And I was like, oh man, that sucks. But I was just impatient because then basically a week later I heard back saying, hey, sorry for the delay. We just wanted to make sure it was cool if we could pass along, your info. Yeah. Sure enough, I get a response back. I shoot Marvel my resume, and Jim McCann was actually on his way out, transitioning to another position. Sure enough, I got the job, and I was like, "Oh, sweet!" And then I wouldn't let them get rid of me. So I had the opportunity to do 2 internships, and I'll tell you what, the time that I was at Marvel was probably one of the wildest times to be there because it was pre-Disney acquisition, but it was on the cusp.
He went on to talk about his time at Marvel and why exactly it was such a crazy time to be there. I mean, think back just to the time right before Disney bought Marvel. There was a lot of stuff happening. He got to write press releases for fan favorites like Miles Morales, who has become so popular that he has his own video game that I've been playing a hell of a whole lot of. And it was far better than the original. Keep in mind that he started college in 2005 and graduated in 2009, meaning he was there for, the legendary Iron Man movie and the highly, highly underrated Edward Norton Hulk film and the launch of the MCU.
After discussing his time at Marvel, he begins talking about comicbook.com and how he began growing it. The original idea came simply from the opportunity to grab a site with great SEO, but as the site began to grow, so did the network, and people wanted to be a part of it.
Here's a part we were able to save where he talks about how Brandon Davis joined the comicbook.com family.
He had not graduated yet, and sent a video reel of him just doing a news recap, kind of show, and said, he goes, I will do this for you basically for free. And I was like, well, okay, we're going to pay you. It was,
And what's cut off at the end there is you talk about how it was also the most fulfilling of his life. And I feel like many of us here at Geek Life can relate to that. I mean, we do Geek Life for free, right? Donations are always accepted. There's a link below in the bio. But we do it because we love it and because we love our nerd herd.
Yes.
Yeah.
We then discussed comics in a bit more detail. We asked if there were any characters in particular that he felt hasn't gotten the chance to sign. Almost immediately, he fired back with Moon Knight. Surprise, surprise. It's his favorite. And we discussed the upcoming project with Oscar Isaac and his excitement for it.
Then we moved on to the reason why so many A Wild Nerd Herders have appeared for this interview. Pokemon, specifically his work on A Wild podcast, has appeared. He took the opportunity to flex on us with a base set holo rare Charizard. Couldn't tell from the camera if it was first edition or not, but as well as a reverse holo. It's super duper impressive. With everything going on in the world of Pokemon, we talked to him about what he was most excited about and what made him start A Wild podcast has appeared. Here is some of his response here.
so Pokemon Go, that craze had kind of dipped down a little bit. And not that it would, like, I mean, there were still millions of people playing Pokemon Go, but the Pokemon fever wasn't there as much.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we started the show, and we just started to see like that there was still very much a hungry audience for Pokemon stuff. It was a franchise. It's a franchise that, look, going on 25 years and is multi-generational. And so for it to be as big as it is again now just kind of blows my mind. Like I totally understand and know that these things ebb and flow, and there will be a time where Pokemon will fade a little bit again. But for every time it fades, when it burns hot again, it burns hotter. And God, it has been so crazy to see the stuff going on with the trading card game, right? Like just like those old cards and those basic stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got cards. You had a Shadowless Charizard first edition PSA 10 card sold for $350,000.
And then Kevin brought up his goddamn binder full of first edition sets again, but at least this time he didn't slap it on the table this time, so I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, I didn't want to sort of discourage our guests. Anyway, as we continued the Poke convo and we talked about how he formed his team for the podcast and how being a father has changed his experience as a Pokemon player, he also talked about how his relationship with his daughter and other parents on the show has helped him create a Wild podcast that's appeared into a podcast that the whole family could enjoy. Some real wholesome shit that we wish we could show y'all.
For real. After we got done talking about Pokemon, we discussed some of the current headlines, and we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the HBO Max controversy. Bronwyn, can you give us the details on what the HBO Max controversy is for those who might not have tuned in?
Yeah, well, basically, just a lot of media and content is being released onto HBO Max, including some of these like people involved in being outspoken about the controversy include Christopher Nolan, who we talked about him a little bit last week, coming out with a statement where they thought they were working for the biggest media group, and then they're like, oh, now we're working for the worst streaming service. It's just a bit of a changing in the how this media is being presented. So this is what Jim Viscardi had to say about that controversy.
But there's plenty of those, and so by saying Wonder Woman is going to be free of charge if you sign up to HBO Max, there's going to be plenty of people who sign up to HBO Max to watch Wonder Woman, and will probably forget to cancel it until May of next year, right? And then by that point, there'll be another big movie out, and they're like, oh well, I might as well keep it. And so that's where like it feels like a gotcha kind of thing, but like that's where they know they're going to make their money.
And while we weren't able to get in the recordings, we discussed the current debacle with Cyberpunk. Kev, how would you describe Jim's thoughts on CD Projekt Red and everything going on with Cyberpunk?
We also discussed what project he was most excited about in the huge lineup of recently announced titles from Disney. Moon Knight was an obvious one, but hey, here I am. But he also mentioned interest in Armor Wars and the Loki series. We talked about our excitement for Kong the Conqueror as well.
Yeah. After that, we wrapped up with some rapid fire where we learned that Jim is a Trekkie, an Xbox Microsoftie, believes in aliens, and most importantly, believes the one truth that we share and hold dear in our hearts this time of year: the fact that Die Hard is indeed a Christmas movie. Overall,
yeah. Overall, it was an incredible experience. Jim stayed after and chatted with us for a while, and he's a genuinely nice guy.
yeah. Rarely do I get the chance to meet my heroes, and even when that has happened, even more rarely that's a positive experience. And I can't say that for Jim. Jim, it was an absolutely a positive, awesome experience. It was an absolute pleasure and an honor to meet him. The full interview will be available on YouTube as soon as we can resurrect it from the glitch-ridden hell that we sent it to when we created it. But I think we're gonna have to call in Constantine, and probably just douse it in some holy water. The other parts of that interview, yeah, I don't know when we're going to be able to salvage that, but we do appreciate Jim Viscardi's time. Sorry we weren't able to make the most of it, but definitely we'll remember that one up in here for a while. I don't know about you, Kev.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully we can get him on again. I just love talking to the guy in general. Like we went on there thinking we were going to have like an hour-long conversation and turn into almost 2 hours just because you know we were talking nerdy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. It was a real fantastic interview, and I'm glad he got the time to stick around and do it. If anybody else at comicbook.com is looking for an interview, I'm positive that the second try we can get it 100% better than the first one. Hey, looking at you, Brandon Davis. We talked about you. I thought that was one part I wanted to talk about, Kev. When he was talking about Brandon Davis in particular, I thought that part was really interesting because he was saying, like he just got right out of college. He, just started sending him these videos of him doing newsreel stuff and then said, I'll do this for free. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to pay you kind of thing. Like, I relate to that level of tenacity, right? I feel like that's something that I would do and it wouldn't work, but I would do it,
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of doing it,
We're kind of doing it every week, right?
Yeah, but that story was pretty inspirational, right? Like, I mean, he was gonna do it for free regardless. I'm sure that was his intention, and they were like, "No, we're gonna pay you," and he got a job out of it. It's basically like Jim said, kind of the face, if you will, of like comicbook.com.
For real.
Yeah.
Well,
what was the most surprising thing for you guys about the interview? Because I didn't get the chance to be there, so I'm kind of just going off of your guys' experience. So I'd really be curious to know just like some surprises, some takeaways.
I think for me the most surprising thing was the humbleness of the beginnings for a lot of the stuff that he was talking about. It started off with him working at a store in Build-A-Bear, and then it ended up with him working at Marvel and starting comicbook.com into like an empire-like thing. I think that was to me the most surprising, is that this wasn't that someone that just got thrown behind a big name and had the opportunity from the beginning. This is something that they kind of built up with off of just meeting one person, meeting the next person. And I think that the other thing that I think was the most genuinely surprising was how genuine he was. Like, I've heard him on while podcast has appeared. I've heard him on all these things, and he's the same person that he was on there that he was when we interviewed him. So I thought that was a really just for that to be the same person kind of thing was very interesting to me, and was very surprising. Again, I've met celebrities before, and not all of those experiences have been positive. So what was the most surprising thing for you, Kev?
Yeah, I would say that that was right up there with, I guess, what was kind of surprising me was that comicbook.com wasn't already sort of which is surprising, the fact that you have a website, comicbook.com, and it's not one of the biggest sort of websites, if you will, in that sort of arena. But I mean, like Jim said, he had something to work with a whole lot, really, with sort of this SEO. But like you also said, they kind of they pretty much built it from the ground up.
Yeah. And I think
being inspired by Viacom and all that other stuff.
I think comicbook.com filled a void that I was looking to fill when I started Geek Life as the radio show. Because remember, when I first proposed Geek Life, it was because I G4 just got canceled and Attack of the Show just got canceled, and I was like, there needs to be something like that though,
Yeah.
and there's not
Yeah.
anywhere else.
Yeah.
And right around that same time is when comicbook.com started picking up. You're talking about, the past 6 years. That was around 6 years ago when G4 started
Yeah.
going away. I
Yeah.
think a little bit before that, you could say that they were pretty much gone already because they were only playing reruns of Cops.
Cops and
But
cheaters.
Cops and Cheaters, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think that was really interesting to kind of see the humble beginnings of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I agree.